Wednesday, rawmike.richards.com. A couple of guests today. So if you're a Steelers fan to begin with, Ed Bouchette, long time of the Post-Gazette, and really sort of the voice of Pittsburgh when it comes to all things Steelers. We'll talk to him today about the state of the Steelers. They've got some decisions to make as well. Clark Gillies, Hall of Famer, basically all-around good guy too, Dave. Will it be fight talk?
Yeah, there's going to be some fight talk. Sure there is.
Yeah, he's been in a couple of rows. He's
the heavyweight of heavyweights.
You know, in a day where they looked after their own business.
L. Arbor used to call him the Gorilla. I'm not joking.
The Gorilla. Jethro was a name that came up from time to time. He, of course, at 6'3", 210 in the day, coming out of, well, he's from Moose Jaw, played for the Regina Pats, but 6'3", 210 was a large hockey player in that time. Now, 6'3", 210 now, you're still on the bigger side, but you're not the freak.
Yeah. When you compare the generations of that, 6'3", 210 in the 1970s and 1980s would be 6'6", 265 right now in today's game, maybe even bigger. Like it's that kind of like he overpowered people when he would fight, when he would hit, and the guy could do it all.
So when I look at the Giants, so Bugard's back.
Sure.
I mean, when you saw him skate on the ice, I mean, you're adding all those inches because of the skates as well, and that's when I was spending some time out in Calgary. So for Minnesota, when he'd come on, you'd look and go, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he'd stick out like a sore thumb just because of how big the dude was.
Well, yeah, and then you'd look down the bench, I guess, at the time and go, hey, Prost, get out there, do something. Against that? And
No thanks.
That was the intimidation. So we'll talk to Clark Gillies, and, of course, of the moments that he's had, and those that go through the generations of fights. The Terry O'Reilly, I mean, there's a bunch. We'll get to in the Ben Wilson fight, and there's some classics. But when you listen and watch, and again, if you're watching on our dedicated YouTube channel, I suggest doing that, or going to our site, rawmike.richards.com, you're going to see some classics. And so when you mention Terry O'Reilly, a tough Irishman, well, get a load of this train wreck.
Hart trying to come out. O'Reilly flattens Gillies, and they're ready to go, and they do. And Gillies moves right on him. Oh, and really hit O'Reilly. And flailed away. O'Reilly coming back, trying to put Gillies in, and a good battle here with Gillies getting the early going.
Yeah.
O'Reilly trying to get loose from the jersey and tie him up, but did not.
Yeah, he didn't.
O'Reilly now is free of the jersey. Gillies has him pinned.
That, again, of the day. I wonder how strange that looks. Do you think that looks archaic to young kids? Do you think if they go back and take a look at that and go, what are they doing? Number one, some of them aren't wearing helmets.
Which is, yeah,
right?
Because Gillies never wore it.
No.
I think his whole career he didn't wear the helmet.
I don't think.
I'm trying to remember a time because I know we went on to the Buffalo Sabres, but I remember him with the Sabres with no helmet.
Yeah, I don't believe so. And of course, when you look at the footage of guys with no helmets and then just going at each other, it's like a depending on how you look at it, either a bad night at the Legion or a really good night at the Legion, because it got really quite graphic when you think about it. Because when you take a look at fights these days, and you don't see a ton of it, and I think at some point, are we seeing no fighting in hockey?
Because there's going to come a time, yes.
Yeah,
there will.
I think also with the lawsuits, concussions, and what is talked about on a literally daily basis about these player safety, then how do you allow something like fighting? And again, will I miss it? I miss those days. Like, I'm sorry, but I do. I love that stuff. And then, and Clark will probably tell a story about Ben Wilson, how, physically intimidating that he was, even to a guy like Clark Gillies, as you said, called the Gorilla, called Jethro. But at some point, after losing a fight, he wanted to even it up. Well, and I don't know if he really wanted to even it up, but He was kind of coaxed in a little bit by another player. I think it was
Bobby Bourne.
yeah, or was
Yeah.
it Nystrom?
I thought it was Bourne, but it could. Yeah, but we'll ask him about.
We'll ask him about
It's
that.
a legendary story.
It's a huge story. It's like, no, you got to fight this guy. He's like, and then he got him so amped up that by the time he gets to, they're playing in Chicago, the only thing he can think about is Ben Wilson and getting some revenge. And guess what? Clark did. He's calling right now. Okay, he's calling right now. And down he goes. And he goes down. Here we go. Are we and so can you Okay, you can hear me? Okay, because right now I'm completely muted, but I believe, I won't be able to hear him either. So we are just waiting momentarily for Clark Gillies to join us here on the show as we just watched himself and Ben Wilson. I guess you would say retribution, or you would also think that there was a little bit of satisfaction in that, and I believe we have him now. Good afternoon, Clark Gillies. Okay, this seems to be spinning as well. We are going on Skype once again, so let's just. There we go.
Is he there?
No, I think he just got rejected. So I think we will try that again. But once we get a hold of him, you're going to talk a lot about some of those fights. But there's a lot of other issues to talk about as well. Being a former Islander, and of course, a lot of that has to do with where they're going to play. Because I don't think necessarily going to Brooklyn, which on paper looked like a good idea, going to the Barclays certainly was a move in the right direction compared to probably the Nassau Coliseum. And here we go again. And now we go to him, I believe. Yes, we do have him. It is Clark Gillies. Good morning, Clark.
Good morning, fellas. How you doing?
Well, we just watched, at first, I'm sure the younger generation might have thought it was Braveheart on skates. But it actually was not. It was actually a portion of your career, and I got to tell you, we sitting back enjoying watching some of them. But I'd suggest if you're fighting Ben Wilson, I don't know necessarily how enjoyable that was, but it was part of what you did, and it's a part of your history, Clark.
Yeah, there were a couple of fights with Ben. One was in New York, and Ben kind of proclaimed himself the champ. And it took a couple of years, but we finally had a rematch back in Chicago. And even though I ended up on the bottom at the end, I think Ben would clearly say that I won that one.
Sorry, Clark, looking at, those kinds of scenarios and what you had to do, does that mean necessarily in sort of people I don't think we play the game a whole bunch, sort of categorize that as the likes to fight guy. And I don't think necessarily the more that we learn about the roles of enforcers, even talking to a George Laraque, for instance, I don't think that necessarily is something that's ingrained like organically in your personality. I think it's just a role that you find in the game of hockey. I don't think you necessarily were walking onto the street and looking for a fight. I just don't believe that's part of your DNA, quite frankly.
No, it's I can be honest with you. I've never, other than certainly growing up in the playground, been in a fight off the ice. Since I turned, let's put it this way, since I turned professional, I've never had a fight off the ice. It's just something that you kind of learn. You grow up in Saskatchewan and you play against the likes of Tiger Williams and a few other people. You tend to have to defend yourself once in a while. And you learn. I mean, I was a big kid. I used fighting as one of my tools. But you're right. I never really enjoyed it that much. There were, I think, out of the 50 or 60 fights that I had, maybe a handful of them I really enjoyed. But for the most part, it was what I did. I've used it as a tool to protect my teammates. And if somebody gave me a cheap shot, naturally they had to pay for it. So it was mostly, playing with Bossy and Trache for the better part of my career. I was out there and I didn't want anybody to take any liberties with them, and it seemed to work for the most part.
Yeah, it really did work, Clark. Good talking to you again. You know what? Let's go back to that Ben Wilson fight, because Mike and I were discussing this before you called into the show. So you were, in a sense, you were kind of talked into this, the rematch, so to speak. How did it actually happen?
Well, it's a funny story. I guess you may have heard bits and pieces of it. We were playing in Boston just a couple of years later, and we're playing in Boston, and we got beat, and we didn't play very physical and this and that. And Bobby Nystrom was my roommate, and he told me, he said, Clarky, he said, we're going to go, we'll go out for a couple of beers after the game. And I said, all right, well, who's going? He said, just me and you. I said, okay. So we went, we were sitting at a bar having a couple of beers, and he looks at me and he goes, Clarky, I got to ask you a question. And I said, what's that, Bobby? And he goes, I know there's somebody out there that you're hesitant to fight. And I said, oh, really? He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I know there is a guy. And he said, if you tell me who it is, he said, I will tell you who my guy is. And I said, oh, that's fair enough. So he said, who are you? I don't want to say you're afraid to fight him, but you're just sort of apprehensive. And I said, well, probably Ben Wilson. He goes, Ben Wilson. Oh, okay. He said, Clarky, who do we play tomorrow night? And I said, well, we're in Chicago. He goes, who plays for Chicago, Clarky? I go, Ben Wilson. He looks at me right in the eye. He looks at me right in the eye like he's gonna beat the crap out of me. He goes, Clarky, tomorrow night you are gonna get this monkey off your back. You're gonna fight him. You're gonna beat him, and that'll be the end of it. I'm like, okay, perfect. So we have a couple more beers, and we go back. We get a good night's sleep, and wake up in the morning, and he's like staring at me from the other bed. Clarky, tonight, Ben Wilson. Tonight, Ben Wilson. I'm like, okay, Bob, okay. Sitting on the plane, he's looking at me. Ben Wilson. Having a pregame meal. Ben Wilson. Before the game, I mean, he just kept reminding me. When I went out for warm up, the only person I could even focus on was Ben Wilson. And Ben made it kind of easy that night. If you look at the beginning of that tape, he kind of gave my buddy Bobby Bourne a shove.
Yeah.
And that just set me off right there. I said, all right, let's go. And he goes, oh, you want it again, huh? I go, yeah.
Oh, boy.
I go, yeah, right now. Let's do it right now. And you saw the fight. I don't think I've been that fired up for a fight. I hit him with a couple of uppercuts. I think had I been a quarter inch closer, I probably would have broke his jaw and knocked him on his face. But that was a good fight. I was ready for that one. And by the way, after that, I never heard from Ben Wilson again.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
I bet. And people should know, when you mentioned Bob Bourne, there now,
right,
historically in your life, there is a much bigger connection than you guys just being teammates.
Yeah, instead of being best friends, we're now somehow related by marriage. My daughter married his son Justin, and they live up in your beautiful city of Toronto. Justin actually works for the Toronto Marlies. He's a video coach for the Marlies. So they're in the heat of the playoffs up there. I understand they won last night. So,
well,
so I'm not so sure it's a great thing that Borneo and I are actually more than just best friends. But,
well, you look at
but it is what it is.
Yeah, the current situation with the Islanders, and again, when you're on the outside looking in, so here we are in Toronto, and we look at what has happened, in Nassau County itself with their vote of whether or not they wanted to put money into a facility, and you find the Islanders going to Brooklyn, which on paper to us, again on the outside, Clark, I'm seeing the Barclays Center. I'm seeing, a revitalized Brooklyn area. It seems to be the place to be where it wasn't years ago, and it all on paper seemed to kind of unfold really nicely. But what is the reality of that situation? Do the players, for instance, John Tavares, do they enjoy that that's where they go? And quite frankly, if you're an Islanders fan, is this a move that you particularly enjoyed and hope it somehow goes back the other way?
Well, I guess to answer all of those questions in one big answer, the Barclays Center isn't working out. The players, you talk about Tavares, I know that he's unhappy with the commute he has to make every game day. The Islanders, they all live within 5 minutes of the Coliseum. And, that was by design. And then all of a sudden they're uprooted, and every game is like a road trip for them. The Rangers do it, but they've been doing it, since the beginning of time. So, you know what you're buying into when you come and play for the Rangers. But this is all new for the Islander players. I mean, I don't know what their actual schedule is. Last year, they used to have to be in Brooklyn for the morning skate. So that meant they'd have to leave the house around 8 o'clock in the morning, take the Long Island Railroad, go to Brooklyn, do their pregame skate, stay in a hotel down there, have their pregame meal, nap, go to the rink, and then jump in a car to have, take them back to Long Island after the game. And I know it wasn't a good situation for them, and I don't think they've really gotten used to it. I can hardly blame them. I mean, every day, every home game is, like I said, is like another road trip. And so they're not happy with that. The Barclays Center itself is a beautiful facility. But there's a lot of limited view seats in there, and even when they're sold out, when they've sold as many seats as they can, it somehow still looks kind of empty with the missing seats. But the Barclays people have done a tremendous job. They've really, really tried hard to promote the Islanders there, and no fault of theirs. This just hasn't worked out for them. So I think the Islanders are going to play there one more year, and then they're going to have to find a new home. Now, there's rumors afloat that they're going to build a rink over by Belmont Racetrack. There's plenty of room there. They've got a huge area that's really all it's used now is to park new cars and stuff. So there's room to build a stadium there. It has access to Long Island Railroad, great roads in and out of there. So that would be perfect. But I guess the best case scenario is that maybe while they're waiting for that rink to be built and they're not going to be at the Barclays Center, maybe they'll come back to the Coliseum for a couple of years, because that would be spectacular. And the fans would, I think, then, kind of regroup around the Islanders and would really help their fan base.
Yeah, it certainly would, and we hope that actually does happen. We're in conversation with Clark Gillies, Hall of Famer, 4-time Stanley Cup champion, joining us on the program. The word goaltender interference has come up many times in this NHL postseason, Clark. Now, you played with one of the most famous goaltenders who wouldn't take that sort of crap, in Billy Smith. What was it like playing with a guy like Billy Smith? And this guy, I don't know if he's ever been interfered with where he's actually had a counter to the interference.
Let's put it this way: many didn't get interfered with because you were out of your mind if you got within 4 feet of them. There would be, you'd have to take some brave soul to stand in Smitty's crease, I can tell you that, because he would just, well, you've seen what he used to do, and there was good reason that nobody got too close to him. So, it's they take liberties. I mean, it's the penalties for standing there aren't as great as they used to be. I mean, I used to be a guy that stood in front of the net in the power, things of that nature. I mean, my ankles used to take a beat in the backs of my legs, my back, my shoulder, everything. But you did it. And nowadays, I don't know, they just go out there but if they do get into that crease, I tell you what, they've called back a lot of goals because of goaltender interference. So I guess the referees are on top of it, but it's been a couple of questionable calls the last few games. I guess Edmonton had a kind of a beef the other night that was pretty legitimate, but it's a crowded area now with the new way they play. They drop everybody down in front of the net, so there's a lot of traffic there. What I can't believe is the the skirmishes that go on around the net for a loose puck. Example being, I think it was the first game that Pittsburgh played Washington. It looked like all 10 guys were diving on the puck in front of the net, and that's something that you never saw back when we played. I think the referees were a little quicker with the whistle, maybe, or something. I don't know, but never. It looked like a rugby scrum in front of the net trying to find the puck. But getting back to Smitty, he controlled his crease area pretty well, and guys were pretty wise to stay away from there.
Well, Clark, I guess the phrase that I would use is, in that day, so if we're talking the 70s and 80s, it was a lot about self-policing. And I think, obviously the rules have changed since then, but I know that if there was a Clark Gillies and I went out to spend my money because I wanted to see Trotz or I wanted to see Bossy, or on the other hand, a Gretzky, no matter who it was, that there sort of was a protection out there of some of those guys. And when you watch, a series, for instance, where Connor McDavid is kind of getting a bad ride from Kessler, I just wonder, for yourself watching it must seem a little almost naked for those guys out there, because I'm paying my money to see Connor McDavid. I don't want to see him hacked and grabbed and thrown down, because they're kind of susceptible because of the rule changes.
Yeah, I guess the philosophy now, I don't know for sure, I guess the philosophy is you don't want to take the extra 2 minutes, you don't want to take a bad penalty or something like that, but I'll guarantee you that if somebody was doing that to Trotz or Bossy, I would take the 5 minutes, and I know Al wouldn't be too mad at me if I did that, because you got to lay down the law a little bit, and Kessel's he's a pain in the butt, and he's been very, very hard on McDavid, especially, and some of the hits that I see, although Crosby tends to go to some pretty dirty areas, but Crosby's taken some horrible hits in this series, and I think it's starting to weigh on him a little bit. But those things, God, you would have had to really pay a big price if you did that to Trotz or Bossy or any of our key players like that. With the likes of myself and Nystrom and Gary Howitt and a couple other guys, Gordy Lane, you would have paid a tremendous price to do that.
Oh, I'm sure they would. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned, Bobby Nystrom. I got a chance to know his son, Eric, when he was out in Calgary. Really solid, super nice young man. Oh, just awesome.
Eric's great.
Looks
great kid. Yeah.
Well, Clark, thanks.
We were down, a funny story. We were down in Florida last week playing golf, and Bob was there, and some young kid, we were in the men's grill having a beer after we played. And some young kid came over to me and said, "Oh, God, you're Clark Gillies, right?" And I go, "Yeah, I am, son. How are you?" He goes, "Oh, God, I'm such a big fan of yours." And I said, "Well, that's Bob Nystrom right there." And the guy looks at Bobby Nystrom and he goes, "Oh, God, you're Eric's father."
That's awesome.
So I said, well, he did score a couple of big overtime goals, too.
A couple, yeah.
Being Eric.
Yeah, Pete Peters may have remembered one of them, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, Clark, thanks so much for joining us today on rawmikeRichards.com. And for those watching and listening here today, they probably want an update. So what is the life of Clark Gillies right now? What is day-to-day for you?
Well, when I'm done with you, I'm going to go hit some balls and play golf at about 12 o'clock. But that's work. That's kind of what I do. I work for a money manager. I work for a money manager out here on the island in Garden City, New York. And, I'll be playing with a couple of clients today. And when the summer rolls around, it's kind of what I do for the most part. But I work in the sales and marketing area there, trying to bring money in for the firm to manage. So it requires me to be on the golf course because most of the rich guys I know, they play golf all summer long. So I got to find them. And, it's a tough racket, but I'm starting to get used to it.
I'm also guessing, Clark, no one calls you Jethro anymore.
Only one person, Eddie Westfall. Eddie Westfall gave me that name 40 some odd years ago, and still, I think I don't even know if Eddie knows my real name. That's all he ever called me, is Jethro. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hey,
yeah.
Just great spending time with you here today, Clark. I really appreciate the time. Best of luck. Best of luck on the golf course, and maybe at some point we'll get a chance to catch up with you again, but that was fantastic here this morning.
Well, I'd love to meet with you guys when I come up to Toronto, but thanks a lot for having me on.
That is Clark Gillies, the legend, joining us on Skype, as you'll hear the magic of the...
And
That
he's
is
gone.
Some kind of creepy music.
Back to the golf course.
Back to the golf course. We're going to talk to Ed Bouchette. All things Steelers in a couple of minutes here. Le'Veon Bell, which was at times almost weirdly controversial. As a teammate, I guess. There's a point where he had to kind of apologize. What he doesn't really have to apologize for is what it is like for him when he's on the field. So just before we get to Ed Bouchette, this is courtesy of CBS and the property of the National Football League. And what you're going to see is an absolute bowling ball performance by Le'Veon Bell against the Buffalo Bills. Simply awesome.
As Bell was in a slot to the right and takes the pass and picks up the first down. Goes back to Bell. Bell with an opening. But then right into a Bills wall, and he breaks out of it.
Look at
him
this.
go inside the 50. Down to the 40. There's their first rushing play. And it's Bell spinning and taking this one for about
Just
15 or
running
16.
over them, Dave.
High formation. And they hand it off to Bell.
To Bell.
Wiggles
To
to
Bell.
the left side, and he's got a gain of 2. Buffalo defense as Bell gets the carry, and he's down to the 2-yard line, maybe the 3.
In the snow, by the way.
Hand it off to Bell. Goes in sideways and drives to the end zone. Touchdown, Pittsburgh.
Once again, the work of Le'Veon Bell, and he just simply does not stop, Dave. When I take a look at, those that can change the game, it's really difficult in football when you start talking about an individual that changes the way in which you even defense a team. But Le'Veon Bell is one of those guys.
Yeah, he definitely is one of those guys. And you know what? You saw it during the playoffs, too, how well he did against everybody until he got injured against New England, because he kind of controlled the line and just, moved the ball on command. That's how good this guy was. But I would have loved to seen a healthy Bell against the Patriots, because I thought Pittsburgh was going to give them their best shot at being knocked off, and that was not the case.
Well, they had a draft in which you're seeing, and this was, I guess, if you go back to some of the great defensive players that we currently have in the NBA. So when you're able to pick up JJ's brother,
Yes.
and a tremendous collegiate career at Wisconsin, he's a linebacker. You probably did okay. And once again, looking forward to talking a lot about the Steelers this morning. And now we go to Ed Bouchette. Good morning, Ed.
Morning, Mike.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us on rawmike.richards.com. We were just looking at some highlights of Le'Veon Bell. And, I guess, is there ever a question, because he's such an absolute talent, one of these guys who can change the complexity of a game on his own. But as far as being a teammate, are we saying that the Steelers, like everything, is sort of copacetic? I mean, he's embraced amongst the team members as well.
Oh yeah, they love him. He's very popular in the locker room. The only mark on his record is he was caught smoking marijuana, and I don't think you'll catch him again. I can't say you won't, but I don't think he'll do it again, and because he realizes what's at stake.
And there's just something about being a Steeler, Ed. I mean, you can look at other franchises, and they go through cycles. They literally go through their ups and downs. Not that Pittsburgh has never gone through that, but there seems to be a consistency with this organization, and maybe it's just a pure reflection of the Rooney family. But when I look at what those teams with a difference in personnel, sometimes a difference in coach, but a Steeler team, Ed, always plays and looks like a Steeler team.
Yeah, you said consistency, and that's a good word, Mike. That and patience. They're not here, unlike other franchises, they're not trying to make news or sell tickets, by hiring a coach every other year to satisfy fans. They just do what they think is right, and it has worked for them. They've had 3 coaches since 1969. Mike Tomlin going on his 11th season this year, and they know what they want. They've played a 3-4 defense, different versions of it, but they've played a 3-4 defense since 1982. I mean, they haven't changed. And people here, when are you going to go back to the Steel Curtain days, the 4-3? And it works for them. Their scouts know what to look for in a defensive player to fit that defense, and are not switching philosophies all the time. And it just that consistency really works for them.
Yeah, it certainly does, Ed. Good morning. Speaking of that 3-4 defense, how does T.J. Watt fit into that defense, considering that the Steelers drafted him with the 30th pick overall and has a little bit of pedigree considering who Big Brother is?
Yeah, he's going to be an outside linebacker, in that 3-4. He will alternate, I think, a little bit early with James Harrison on the right side. James is 39, and he's not going to play every down, especially early in the season. I think they want to save him a little bit, and they're hoping TJ can come on fast enough that they can rotate with him. Ultimately, the goal is he will be the starter out there. When that happens, who knows? But it's going to depend on how quickly he develops.
Well, if you're breaking down historically what you've seen from Pittsburgh, they've always had the ability to pound and smash the ball. So when you start seeing some of the receivers, and now there's a lot of them, that Juju Smith-Schuster out of SC, not that the Trojans have ever had any problems finding and creating wide receivers and talent at that position. Is he going to see a lot or much of the field in his first year?
Well, again, Mike, that's going to depend on others. Well, him too, how quickly he develops. But Antonio Brown is certainly a fixture. And their slot man is Eli Rogers. Juju is going to be an outside guy. And with Martavis Bryant coming back, if he keeps his nose clean, if you will, then he would be the starter. And I think Juju has a real shot to work in as the number 3 outside guy, the number 4 receiver, when they go to 4 wide. That's certainly, if Martavis Bryant is in tip-top shape, which he seems to be right now, and he can stay clean, those are 3 pretty dynamic receivers, wide receivers they can throw at you.
Yeah, it certainly is. So when we're looking at the early projections of the actual conference itself, Vegas says the Patriots are going to be that number 1 team. But there's a little bit of a question mark who's going to be that number 2 team. I know the Steelers are part of the mix. The Raiders are probably part of that mix. Some people say the Titans could be one of those surprise teams. How do you handicap the rest of the conference, Ed?
Well, I think with the quarterback healthy in Oakland and with them signing Marshawn Lynch, they certainly are taking an extra step. I think they have to be right up there. I don't know that the Titans are ready yet, but, I love their coach, Mike Mularkey, and Dick LeBeau's down there. A couple other former Steelers and Steeler coaches are there. And that quarterback seems to be coming along, Mariota down there. I like the Steelers. Their defense has improved. They started 3 rookies there last year. They'll be better this year, I think. And I think the offense will, as long as it can stay healthy and keep their players on the field. Remember, they lost Le'Veon Bell early in that AFC title game in New England, and they also were without virtually all their other good receivers other than Antonio Brown. So they have to stay healthy. You could say that about every team, though.
We're in conversation with Ed Bouchette here on RawMikeRichards.com. Speaking of quarterbacks, a pretty good one in Pittsburgh, a guy that just seemingly, even if you had an RPG, Ed, I think even if it hit him in the back during a game, I'm still not sure he goes down. I've never seen a quarterback who takes the kind of punishment that he does. And the reality is, even of a guy of that size, he has excellent feet and probably, Ed, a way better athlete than people probably give him credit for.
Yeah, he is, and he was taking a lot of hits. I mean, he was sacked 50 times one season, high 40s several others, and it's why they changed coordinators from Bruce Arians to Todd Haley. They felt that Bruce's system wasn't protecting him enough. Now he gets rid of the ball much quicker. I think he was sacked 17 times last year, maybe 13, 17, somewhere around there, and he doesn't run like he used to. He used to take off running. He doesn't do that. He doesn't get outside the pocket as much, but he can still make things happen. He has uncanny ability to just shake loose from a pass rush. He has great peripheral vision and, probably 6 cents on a pass rush and can get rid of it.
Yeah, he certainly is. Now, he's also 35 years old, and surely that there's going to come a time soon, and a lot sooner than later, that the backup plan has to come in. Is Landry Jones that backup plan that they're confident enough to take over when Big Ben is kind of taking that step back, or is the answer to the next Steelers quarterback, it just hasn't been solved yet, and it might be part of a draft in the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, Landry Jones is not the heir apparent.
Yeah.
He's the backup, and that's what they consider him, is the backup. They just drafted Joshua Dobbs of Tennessee in the 4th round, and I don't think he's the answer, but he certainly will get every opportunity to show why he can or why he can't. Dak Prescott down in Dallas last year was a 4th round pick too. I don't think anybody thought that he was going to replace Romo. So I still think the guy is playing in college is going to replace Ben, but he's 35. He did mention retirement. I think that was out of frustration 2 days after losing the AFC title game.
Yep.
I think he still wants to play as long as he's healthy.
Ed, the one thing that I think is pretty cool about this current team, and again, maybe it's something could be made more of what the story actually is, but hometown favorites always get passion amongst those that are from that particular town. When I look at James Conner out of Pitt, that's kind of a hometown story. Now I realize we're talking about a 3rd round pick. It's not maybe highly publicized, but sometimes Pittsburgh's of the world, those teams that are a little more blue collar, the Rudy Rudiger kind of thing, and I think it's a little more significant than that. But it seems like a nice story. I'm just wondering, has the kid got a chance to actually participate and be a part of this Pittsburgh Steeler team?
Oh, it's a great story, Mike. Not just they have a history of not drafting Pitt players back into the 70s when they were good, and in the 80s when Pitt was producing all these 1st round picks and Hall of Famers like Russ Grimm, and they just they ignored Pitt. And I remember Pitt being really upset by it. And this is the highest they've taken a Pitt player in a long, long time. And, he is just a crushing running back. And that's besides his story of beating Hodgkin's disease, and a torn ACL and coming back. And they need a backup runner to Le'Veon Bell. First of all, he's running way too much. He had groin surgery this past year. He broke down in the postseason. Actually set 2 postseason records before that New England game, and the groin just gave out on him. And that to me signals they've been running him too much. So this Connor can come in and spell him. He's a different style runner. Le'Veon is more of a patient runner, whereas Connor just smacks you. And I think that's going to be a good combination.
Does he have hands as well?
Yeah, he can catch.
Yeah.
Yes, he can.
Okay, huge. And it's funny that you mentioned Bell. It's almost become a signature as he approaches the line of scrimmage where there's that pause, where there's that wait with Bell. And as soon as you see that happening, he just waits for that hole to be created and he's gone. It's really almost, as I said, you get style points for that kind of thing. He's really worth the price of admission, if you ask me.
Yeah, and, you can't do that with a lot of offensive lines. He has a really good one. Because with lines that aren't really good, you better just hit the hole, and hit it quick. But it's a unique style, and it is fun to watch him run.
Ed, thanks so much for joining us here on MikeRichards.com. Appreciate the time. I know there's a lot of Steeler fans either watching or listening to our program here today. They're all amped up for it, as they should, because give or take, a Steeler season always is a pretty interesting season, and I'm sure it's why you've done it since, how long actually you've been covering the Steelers? Since the 80s?
85.
Yep.
It's been my beat at the Post-Gazette, yep.
So,
85.
So I'd suggest you probably have enjoyed the ride.
It's a good job. Yeah, it's been a good job for me. Yeah.
Thanks so
nice
much.
Career.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed. You take care.
Okay, fellas. Thanks.
Ed Bouchette joining us here today. Oop, there it goes. Well, the Skype thing's kind of
Back into the pool of internet, eh?
yeah. I guess that's what
The
it
internet
is.
pool.
Kind of freaks me out. For those that are unfamiliar, I brought up the name James Conner. So out of Pitt, he goes actually number 105th. Pick 41 in the third round. And generally, as I said, if someone said, "What do you make of a third round pick?" That's still 105th overall. I don't think that you would really care. You'd probably think that there's a guy who might have had a decent collegiate career, and at some point he's going to have that on his resume, and he goes to a big insurance firm. They're like, "Are you kidding me? That's great. Pitt Panther, going to get a good job. He's going to, do all the right things. Probably play golf when he has to play, and it looks good for the insurance firm." This is not that story. This isn't that. And as you heard Ed Bouchette talking about it, he's going to see some time because Le'Veon Bell has the ball an extraordinary amount of time, maybe too much time. And so to see this kid who has already beaten things like cancer, he's going to be one of these hometown hero guys. And again, out of being a Pitt Panther, that's a great story.
That's a great story. And you kind of look at what the Steelers have to do as far as, getting their time in. So week one, Mike, the Steelers are in Cleveland, and you have to think that in week one against Cleveland, by the middle of the third or later in the early in the fourth quarter, this is where Conner could actually get some decent carries and a good time to spot off Le'Veon Bell. You don't need him bashing through the tackles at that time of game, and this is where the guy can come in, substitute him, and kind of give much needed rest to what is a very good running attack.
You're listening to rawmikeRichards.com. You've probably downloaded the podcast or you're watching courtesy of YouTube, our dedicated YouTube channel. If you're doing that, then we got to thank our friends at Henry's Cameras, Canada's camera store, helping us out here. Of course, Avi Studios, who built the website, and our very good friends at Eggplant Pictures, allowing us to do this for you. Now, looking at last night, we talked about Ottawa as they move on. Kind of stunned the Rangers. I don't know.
I was surprised by it. I didn't think that. I thought this was headed to a Game 7, but Craig Anderson was money in the bank. He was tremendous. He was the game's first star.
His wife tweeted out last night, like, "This is the worst 2 minutes."
Yeah.
You literally can't handle that last 2 minutes. But, Anderson is an interesting story because he's one of the few guys that I can think of that have made it to the show and have flirted between being the number two in terms of goaltending.
Sure.
He just didn't come in and a number one. And he's gone back and forth with different teams, being a one and then back to the two, and now he's a one again. I will tell you that the league for itself, once Russell Graham, our technical director, has decided that he wants to be in the NHL, at most he's a two.
Yeah.
But if he wants to be a number one, I'm like, they see you as one way, Dave. It's like James Reimer here in Toronto has always really felt unto himself that he's a number one. But he has fought that his entire career on where to get played. And the league is saying to him, it's nice you think that way, but we see you as a number two.
It's true. It's true, because it took him a while to actually get acquainted with an NHL team. He was with the Blackhawks for a while. He was getting sent down between the minors and the big club, and nobody really thought he was going to catch on. But then he finally got a little bit of an opportunity in Florida, played 31 games in 2007, 2008, got the break in Colorado, and then from there, it's kind of skyrocketed. It's been a nice little story for him, and he's turned out to be a pretty serviceable NHL goaltender, and one that at times, and we saw it last night, can win the big game. And who would have thought? Like, raise your hands out there, unless you're driving. Don't do that.
No.
Raise your hands out there if you thought, oh, you know what? I have the Ottawa Senators in the conference final, because I don't think anybody did.
Well, the annoying Senators fans would. Oh, they knew this was coming.
That can't be.
And it's just and here, what we talked about a while ago, because I said it does make me sick. But Erik Karlsson, if we're looking at it in terms of those who have been outstanding in the playoffs, and if they weren't on that team, their team's not there, Erik Karlsson might be number one for me right now.
Conn Smythe front runner. If Ryan Getzlaf gets past the Oilers, which I'm hoping it doesn't happen, he's a front runner as well. But in the Eastern Conference, I think he has been the story so far.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that by the numbers. See if you can find some numbers for me, Dave, or you may have them already.
Okay.
Because if we're taking a look at that game tonight, or is it tonight?
Yeah, there's a couple games tonight. There's a couple game 7s tonight, appropriately marked down as a 7 and 10:30. So that's 7:30 and 10 o'clock, I should say.
Okay,
So.
well, let's start with the early game. And right now, depending on what that number is, for the first time ever in a Game 7, I may be teased to take a Washington Capital win.
Oh.
But what's it worth?
Well, they are the favorites right now. So if you're looking money line Washington Capitals, you're looking at that at a 156.
Oh,
I know.
what a shit number!
But you know what?
156.
But you know what? Pittsburgh might be the way to go. You're getting at 250.
Well, but that's what they're for. Vegas, we know what you're doing. We know your tricks.
You're tempting us.
He's like, oh, it's a 171. No problem. I'll take the Caps. But no. You ain't getting the 171. But I'll tell you what. Look over here. Pittsburgh, a 2-5. A 2-5. What do you mean? Yeah.
Nice jerseys. Look at the colors. Ooh, are you tempted?
And that's what they want.
And I am tempted.
Because the 156, is that what you said it was?
Yeah, 156.
What a shit number that is.
Yeah. So Edmonton. Now this is a little bit tighter. You're almost looking both ways, going, okay, I could go either way on this one.
This could go either way.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the total.
So totals in this one is 5.5 goals, which really isn't too surprising with that game. 5.5 in both games actually tonight. So
what do you get 5.5? What is the over?
Over is 220. And the under is a 170.
Because I don't think necessarily you're going to see, a 5-goal performance or whatever in the first period.
No.
You wouldn't think.
You'd think a game 7 would be tighter.
But don't you think for them, 6 goals?
Like 4-2?
Yeah.
3-2, empty netter, game over.
Because I can't say right now that I wholeheartedly believe that it has to be the Ducks. Now, I'd lean that way, and they've got to be the favorites.
They are the slight favorites. They're paying a 187, and the Oilers are paying a 195. So you're looking at that going, that's a coin flip. That's a Vegas coin flip right there.
And the problem is, when you look at the psychology of degenerates like ourselves and what's going through our head, you're like, yeah, Anaheim has to be favored. And then the other side of your brain goes, remember that first period last game? Yeah, I do. I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
That was an exciting first period.
Yeah, all those goals.
5 of them in total.
Remember how happy you were because you took the over? Yeah, I was happy. I do remember that.
Because the Oilers covered it themselves 1 minute into the second period when they scored the 6th goal. Because they had the 5 in the first and they scored that 6th goal right away, and you were laughing. The game was over for you as far as totals were concerned.
A couple of tweets in here. Here's one from Forticus. He goes, Clark Gillies. Man, you're right. He is the man.
He is the man. He really is.
And of that day, one of these. I guess you could use the term gentle giant, but what a delight it was having him on.
And you know what? He does come into the Toronto area. He
said,
visits his grandchildren.
Yeah. So he said what his son-in-law.
Yes.
Is the video guy for the Marlins.
Justin Bourne. Yeah.
All right. So there you have. Here's
not to be mistaken with the Bourne series. He's a different Justin Bourne.
That would be a good Bourne, though.
It is. I think it fits in.
Here's one from Jake. One of my favorite names, by the way.
Jake?
If I had another boy, Jake gets the name.
Jake gets the name,
yep,
okay.
Jake or Jack. I would do both. What do you think of Carlson Selly? He said Jamie Benn-esque. He acts like he's been there before, almost emotionless. # classy. I think, if they announce the Conn Smythe and it's cool Eric Carlson going out to get it with his stunning fiance or wife or whatever it is. Like, it's all good. We always said, who would we like to be?
Yeah.
Like, right now, if it's not Bryce Harper.
Maybe it's Eric Carlson?
I'm thinking Eric Carlson.
But you'd have to live in Ottawa, though. Would you want that? Because
well,
you're looking for that dream scenario, right?
Where do we think Bryce Harper's going to go? New York?
He's probably going to New York.
Well, see, then
he's going to replace all those Jeter addicts that get the gift package at the end of the night.
So there's the question of the day. If you were so famous and so good with the ladies, does the gift basket scenario enter your mind to kind of give them something? A going-away present?
I think Russell is our first voter, and he says yes.
Yeah, Russell, I know this is something that you've talked about quite often with me. And if you were, let's say, and I said you were a number 2 goalie, now you're number 1.
Yeah, you're a number 1. You're a starter on a Stanley Cup winner.
Let's say that you have pushed out King Henrik. So you're the number one goalie now in New York. You're good with the ladies. Can we just say that you're pretty good with the ladies?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very good with the ladies. If that's the case, are you giving some sort of gift basket to the ladies that visit your stylish penthouse condo?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give them something.
See, that sounded
well.
terrible.
Hopefully you did already.
Yeah, so that really didn't. I don't think any of the ladies are excited about that. Like, what would a Russell Graham gift bag look like?
yeah, what would a gift bag be?
Yeah, what's in there?
Let's see. I don't know. Probably bottle of wine.
Okay.
Get some chocolates.
Good start.
So booze and chocolates.
Booze, chocolates.
Booze and chocolate.
That's kind of what you do
That's-
before, though,
Yeah,
right?
Well,
Yeah, but always nice after.
Okay.
Um,
Autograph hockey puck, maybe.
yeah, you're gonna put something in there.
yeah, maybe a jersey.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Maybe
a jersey.
yeah.
You're stepping up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe tickets to the next game
Mm.
if I can pull that.
Yeah, but I can tell you, as a veteran, you don't want to be doing that.
No, because you never
Because-
know who else.
because now
will
others
be
like-
there, right?
That's true.
I'm with Russell Graham. I'm with Russell Graham.
Oh no!
now-
cat fight.
Cat fight.
Here we
Terrible,
go.
terrible. Davey, what would you do? And this is again, Irene, in the fantasy world, the fake world. It's not really what he would do. We're just saying in the scenario. What would be in the DJ Styles gift bag?
Well, there'd have to be a whole bunch of vinyl, right? As far as
Vinyl. Yeah. A DJ giving away
you can take that for what it's worth.
record albums.
You know what? I'm giving away Derek Jeter baseballs. That's what I'm doing.
Theater baseballs.
What kind of gift basket would it be? Would it be one of those nice little, would it be like a handled?
Yeah, see, because if you go,
it kind of looks kind of stupid, right?
it can't be like one of those Christmas ones where there's,
Yeah.
you know what? It's Jess, right? Jess?
Yeah, I think it is.
Jess. I'm going to call Jess to come in here because
she's not.
is she
listening.
running away?
Is
No,
she
she's
listening to
running away
us?
because
Wait.
she's been helping on the show, and I really want to get her opinion on.
No, she's not paying attention.
No, she's not. No, she can hear it. She can hear. Maybe she got one of those gift bags. I don't know. You can't have it too big.
She has an autographed Derek Jeter ball.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Tremendous.
Well,
Hashtag road trip.
You know, with all the cellophane and stuff, I don't know if you want to make it that big. Maybe a little smaller. I think if you're really maybe a mixed tape. That'd be nice. And,
Remember making those?
Mixtape.
Here's a mixtape.
You know, maybe I can find some Avon stuff that my mom hasn't used. It's like Avon. Yeah, it's
Avon calling.
perfume in the shape of a car. Come
you go.
on, how can you go wrong with that?
You can't.
Yeah, that was gifts. Jess gonna come. Oh, she's gonna come in. Yeah, Jess, you got to come in and help us with this. So give her the microphone. Maybe she should stand by. Can she stand by Dave to try to get in that shot, or stand by
Absolutely.
me? Which is the easier place for Jess?
Let's put you on the spot,
Okay,
Jess.
so we're gonna put you on the spot. This is the lovely Jess who's been helping.
Okay, so let me set this up.
she's
so,
a very hard worker.
So
and the camera's this way too. Just so look at that.
So Derek Jeter in his day had a habit of occasionally carousing with different women. And at the end of the night, spending the night with Derek Jeter,
Yeah.
he would give them a gift basket.
Yeah, you get a little present on the way out.
Yeah, you get a
That's
little
nice.
present on the way out, and
nice.
I'll don't call me, I'll call you. What would you expect if you were with Derek Jeter? What would you expect to be in that gift bag?
But first of all, is that insulting? So you
Yes,
spend the
I would
night.
say
He's a
yes.
professional athlete, so he's
I'm very
famous.
easily insulted.
Yeah, okay. So you get up and you're like, thanks, Derek. You're amazing. And he goes, no problem. Here's your gift
Is that,
bag.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know.
So what would you say? What would you do if a guy, let's just say a guy tried that with you, if they're watching right now?
I mean, if it had some Prada sunglasses, I'd be happy with that.
Ooh, see?
I would
Oh.
be quite,
See,
yeah,
that's
I am a
good.
sucker for the Pradas.
Okay.
That just costs
I
us more
mean,
money, way more
yeah.
money. Yeah, Russell was saying chocolates and a bottle of.
It's just assuming that I would assume that then maybe I'm not going to get a call back, and it's kind of like an ending. You know what I mean?
You know what? That's
See,
a good
this
point.
Is what,
Relationship.
this is what I was saying.
And
though.
a lot, and Jeter probably did this to a lot of people, right? Like you're
And famous ones too.
you're
didn't he?
it's
you're,
almost like, yeah.
you're
I
good on
do.
Friday, but we're not calling you on Saturday.
Yeah, you're a Wednesday girl for me. So excuse me? Excuse me? I'm at least Friday.
But
pal.
I mean, a gift bag's better than nothing.
Oh, so you see
I'm
where
changing my mind now.
see
I
where
don't
this
know.
started? Started like this
Yeah.
is so insulting. How about those Prada sunglasses?
Yeah.
It's not that exciting. It's not that insulting anymore.
Look, if we keep Jess around, she's going to get it with the Russell's bag of licorice and
so,
tater tots.
So Derek Jeter has a closet full of women's Prada sunglasses, and he just puts everything together.
But that would, if you're getting Prada or you're getting nada. Isn't that what they say? Isn't that the big thing?
Yeah, I
that's
guess,
good.
yeah.
See, so that's the big hand for Jess for coming in.
Okay,
and
thanks,
explaining
Jess.
that one. So the lesson here is if you're going to use a gift bag, you're going to have to, you got to pay.
So El Cheapo over there giving away chocolates from 7-Eleven isn't going to work.
Someone tweeting in Russell Graham's basket would include an Uber gift card.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you're a busy guy.
I mean, I think that's useful.
Well, but
I use Uber a fair amount.
Yeah, but then they'll be coming back to your house now, and you're just trying to get rid of them. You really don't want to see that. See, this is where you need more. You spend more time with Dave and myself.
If they show up, you don't have to answer the door if they show up.
Oh, now they're lining up, Russell. Very nice. He's gone from all of a sudden occasionally getting a girl to now there's a lineup.
Wasn't he just playing in the American Hockey League too?
I was gonna
Before
say,
this conversation?
Yeah, you were in Rochester. All of a sudden now you're. Speaking of weirdness and girls, and I got to say, I've never seen this before. This is from Finland. So if you're watching on the dedicated YouTube channel or want to go to our website, rawmikeRichards.com, something in Finland that I think is maybe the greatest waste of time. I don't care what age they are. I mean, I thought maybe they'd be a little bit older, but this is the World Hobbyhorse Championships.
This is fantastic, by the way.
So just so you know, Hobbyhorse in this case.
I got a good story about this after.
Okay, so there's the stick. And then on the top of the pole, there's like a horse's head.
Yes.
And little kids use it to skip around and do whatever. This is serious. I thought at first this was like a joke.
No.
But this is what the Finnish think is a good competition. So it's indoors. The girls are running around in a gymnasium pretending that they're a horse. And they're doing jumps. Big cheers. Loser. I'm sorry. Like, what if you're one of the boyfriends? Like, look at this one. She's actually doing the high knee like it's an equestrian event. On the tiptoes. Okay. Look at this. All right. That's enough of that. All right. I have no idea. I mean, I know in Finland there's a lot of drinking that goes on. The Finns that I've met in my lifetime, the vodka is literally like water. Did not see that necessarily coming.
Well, I'd be lying if I told you a story that I didn't do this because I clearly did. Toys R Us sells those, and
see, I thought that was like I
no.
thought that was something that people did like at the turn of the century,
no.
or a Little House in the Prairie fun, you know?
No. And Marissa and I have chased after each other in Toys R Us with these horses.
Yeah, and how old is she?
Yeah, she's 4.
Yeah, 4. After 4, you and this is of interest to you. Go to a place that in its description there's the word institution. Like, do that. Or end up with someone who actually says the word of no fixed address. Like, do that. But if you think that's a competition, I mean, that just...
they kind of took it to another level of stupidity.
Yeah, that's just bad. Look, before I want to touch a little bit on the NBA, looking at Manu Ginobili, and, of all the things that could have happened last night, if I'm talking about Manu Ginobili and a block for him to win the game, while it was San Antonio, and this was a game saver at the end of the game, get a load of Manu Ginobili.
In overtime, his first. The puck right there by Mills. The ball jarred free. As they get
So they'll have to jump it.
Mills and Gordon.
5 seconds.
And that
5
was a good
seconds.
Call because the position helps Anderson. Here's Harden. Ginobili's on him. He's got shot. What a play by Ginobili!
And that was courtesy of our friends at NBA Television, also TNT. Kevin Harlan on the call.
Absolutely, our good friend Kevin Harlan. But of all the things that they thought would happen, who thought it was going to be Manu Ginobili?
Block party.
Manu Ginobili doing it. He's done it for a long time. But in the post game, he starts talking about how it happened, and he said, he's watched Ginobili and guarded him so often that he knew that if he got into a certain point of his jump shot, and of course it was beyond the arc, it had to be, they were down by 3. He let him get into his shooting stance and actually go up, but he knew at some point the ball always comes back to a certain point. He waited until he reached that point and makes the block, because a lot of people are like, why would you let him shoot? Because that's a huge risk, but he did it to perfection.
And my second part is, why would you admit you know what he does when there's going to be a game 6? Do you know what I mean? Like if you find a tell in me if we're playing poker. You're not going to sit there and say, Dave, anytime you scratch your nose, you have an ace. It's like, well, I'm going to stop scratching my nose when I have an ace. You know what I mean? Like
the timing was pretty good.
It was very good.
So they
Spurs take that lead in the series with a 110-107 win, 3-2. They can close it in Game 6.
Okay, so basically, here's what we're doing now.
Which they probably won't, right?
What?
Yeah, I think so. Here we go.
We just become best friends? Yup. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yup. It's time!
I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today, including the legendary Clark Gillies. We did obviously talk about fights, but when you talk Clark Gillies, it was so much more, and I think that's really the essence of a guy that makes it to the Hall of Fame. It was everything else he did to make that team great, and trust me, those Islanders teams, that was in a category of great all by themselves.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Ed Bouchette, longtime reporter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, telling us not about draft picks, but what you can expect again this year from one of the more dominant teams in the history of the NFL. Tomorrow, Jim Bowden, we talk a little baseball. What's going to happen before the season is over? Have yourself a great day.